How's everyone? Welcome to another string review right here on OpenCourt. So I got a very special review for you guys today. I was contacted recently by a company called ReString who launched their first tennis string last year in 2022, and they sent me a couple of sets of their newest flagship string to try. So today we're taking a look at the ReString Zero. So before we get into this, if you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button to keep the reviews coming. Let's check out the ReString Zero. So the ReString Zero string is a 6-sided hexagonal poly meant to grip the ball, and it is supposed to have a firmer construction. Apparently this ReString Zero is already being used by some ATP and WTA pros, which is pretty cool for a string that was just recently launched. The string profile says it's supposed to get longer lasting playability and control, which means it probably will be a little bit on the stiffer side. It also has a super lubricated coating combined with the 6 sides is meant to grab the ball to provide that extra spin. According to the ReString website, this Zero string is rated as a 10 out of 10 for spin, which is pretty impressive if that turns out to be true. It also has a power level of 8, control 8, comfort 8, and playability duration 9. Those are all pretty impressive numbers. Usually if you have high playability duration and high control, it usually means the comfort is going to be a little stiffer, so it's probably not going to be that good in terms of protecting your arm. So I'm curious to see if these numbers actually hold up, because if they do, that's a pretty impressive statistic. So all that is good, but the main point of this new ReString Zero string, the ReString company, is the sustainability initiative. This ReString string comes in a 100% biodegradable packaging. As most of you guys know, tennis is not a very eco-friendly sport. You throw away a lot of balls, a lot of cans, a lot of strings. It produces a lot of waste, so any type of sustainability initiative is welcome. This is sort of in the vein of the Wilson Trinity ball. I really like that idea. That ball is quite expensive, but if you can afford it, I highly recommend using it because it comes in a fully biodegradable package, just like this ReString Zero. ReString also donates 5% of their profits to the charities that support sustainability initiatives around the world. So if you guys are all about going green just like I am, support the ReString Zero, give this string a try. Lastly, this string comes in 2 gauges, a 123 and a 128 gauge, and it's $14 for a set. So I got the 123 millimeter gauge strung up in my Yonex DR98 here. I got it strung at 53 in the mains and 51 in the cross. This is a pretty powerful and stiff racket. I would have strung it a little higher, but judging from what I read on the packaging, this is probably gonna play a little stiffer, so I went a little lower for my DR. So I'm excited to give this string a try to see if it really lives up to all the hype on the packaging, and to tell you guys if this string not only is good for the environment, but also good on the court. So let's start with the pros of the ReString Zero string. I was pleasantly surprised by how many good things this string had. For me, the biggest pro with the ReString Zero was the tension maintenance. I play an aggressive style of tennis, and the abuse I put on the ball tends to stretch out strings, and I lose tension quite quickly with many polys, even with my predominantly serve and volley style. I played with the ReString Zero in my open DR98 racket, and I was pounding away from the baseline, and literally this string did not drop tension at all. I was super surprised by how much consistency this string played with over the course of 5 play sessions. If you are sensitive to tension loss, the ReString Zero is a great option because I barely noticed any springiness or drop in tension, and this was easily what impressed me the most about the ReString Zero. Secondly, the Zero has great control and spin. Usually these two concepts go hand in hand, and this proved true with this string. The shaped nature of the Zero caused my shots, especially my topspin forehand and kick serves, to really bite. Even in the powerful DR98, My aggressive shots tended to land well inside the lines, and I felt confident going for deeper shots and aiming closer to the lines than I would with a string that didn't have this level of control. The stiffness also contributed to the control and reeled in the power of the DR98, and I think advanced big hitters would like this type of string. The spin and control really stands out on those full aggressive ground strokes. My favorite shot to hit with the ReString Zero was definitely my forehand ground strokes and returns. I just felt so connected to those swings, and I could trust my shot would fall inside the court. The Zero has minimal string movement and snaps back really well. To go along with the great tension maintenance, these strings did not get stuck out of place, even with its sharp edges. For reference, the Vocal V-Torque Tour I reviewed last year did not drop tension much, but the sharp and twisted profile caused the strings to get stuck out of place and it lost its spin potential. This was not the case with the Zero, which is good news for players who rely on heavy spin. The ReString Zero doesn't have much in terms of power in my opinion, but it's not completely dead and boardy like some stiffer strings. I did notice my flat serve didn't have as much pace to it as when I usually hit it, but it still cleared the net and landed in at a relatively high rate, and consistency is something I value more than speed in my flat serve, so that's a welcome trade-off. The slice serves had a lower percentage than I would have liked, and this is most likely because of the stiff nature of the string. My slice serves tend to always clip the net with deader, stiffer strings, so this was no surprise. The kick serves were very good with the Zero, and I really saw my serve diving down into the box and kicking out of my opponent's strike zone. I felt comfortable approaching the net after a successful kick serve, and I always appreciate a string that allows me to close the gap easily. Speaking of volleys, this ReString Zero had great control and slice on aggressive and high volleys. It doesn't provide much in terms of put-away power, but that's not something I really need anyway. The Zero has great control on low volleys and approach volleys, and allowed me to keep those shots low over the net so I didn't give my opponents chances to attack me at the net. The touch on drop shots wasn't great, but I still got the feedback I wanted on the fast shots, and I could angle them off toward the sideline and hit angle winners. So there were many things I liked about the ReString Zero, but what bothered me a little about this string? Let's get into that now. Now let's get into the cons of the ReString Zero. There wasn't much for me aside from the slightly muted and deader response. I personally like crisper playing strings, and the Zero, although not completely dead like RPM Blast or a Vocal Cyclone, it wasn't quite lively enough for me to trust it on the touch and angle shots I like to hit. The spin and control usually kept aggressive shots in the court, and it has decent impact feedback to my arm, but I just didn't feel confident going for drop shots and angle shots because the Zero didn't feel like it had much dwell time. Most often when I would try to hit a drop shot, it would fall short into the net. The Zero feels stiff and gets good control on fast swings, but just doesn't quite have the necessary feel on softer shots. Kind of like the marketing of Headlink's Touch or the Luxilon Smart claims those strings can do. I just wish it gave me a little more lively feel, but this isn't a completely dead string, so it was fine. Next, the stiffness of the ReString Zero might bother some people. It didn't bother me, but I will put it in the cons section because I know many players out there have sensitive arms. I strung this string at 54 pounds in my stiff DR98 because I believe the DR plays better at higher tensions, and it didn't give me arm problems, but many players will probably not be able to handle the ReString Zero in a stiff racket at a 50 plus tension. Unfortunately, no softer alternative exists in the ReString lineup currently, but if you are wanting to try this string, I would recommend the thinner gauge and stringing below 50 if you have sensitive arms. I think the spin and control of the ReString Zero will still perform admirably in the 40-pound range. Just be careful about stringing too low because that will affect the snapback. So who is the ReString Zero for? If you are all about the environment and supporting the green movement, give this Zero string a try. Any amount of harmful waste we can reduce is a plus no matter how little. Tennis players produce a lot of waste with all the balls, the ball cans, strings, overgrips, and all the packaging we go through. So I am fully behind any company that seeks to reduce waste in any form, like the Wilson Trinity ball or the new Luxilon Eco Power string that I am planning to try soon. In terms of playability, I think the ReString Zero is for players who can handle the stiffness and want great control, spin, and tension maintenance. If you are a stickler for tension stability, I feel the Zero is up there with the best of the best, so this could last you for a while even if you're an aggressive abuser of the tennis ball. I think the ReString Zero is a great control and spin string, and for those looking for value in terms of price to playability duration, the Zero has few competitors that can match its longevity. Constantly cutting strings out and restringing can add to the waste we tennis players produce, so any string that can stand the test of time will further reduce waste. I'm not sure if this was something the ReString company had in mind, but it certainly is another benefit of having a longer lasting polyester string. So good job ReString. If you guys have never heard of this company, they're relatively new, so please give their string, the Zero, a try and continue to support the green movement. Thank you for watching this review of the new ReString Zero right here on OpenCourt. If you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an OpenCourt.